The arena, on Orgali's prime, shook as war cries echoed across the galaxy. It was the opening day of the most feared competition in the universe, the Orgali's tournament, where champions from every advanced species came to prove their strength. Fights were deadly, brutal, and legendary. For thousands of years, warriors battled with weapons forged from stars, armor made of alien bones, and minds sharpened by war. This time, a new species had been invited. Humans many in the galaxy laughed. Humans were considered soft, weak, new to space travel. What could they offer against centuries-old warriors who trained in gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's? Yet someone did come. His name was Elias Cade. He arrived on the platform, alone, wearing a simple gray suit with no armor. No weapon hung at his side. No shield. No AI assistant. No implanted tech. The crowd went silent for a moment, unsure if this was a joke. Then came the laughter. "He's unarmed," someone shouted. "In intergalactic common, did he forget his gear? Maybe he's the snack, not the fighter." Elias didn't react. He stood straight, calm, and silent, looking at the ring ahead like a man studying a map. His short brown hair moved with the breeze from the arena fans, and his eyes scanned every detail except doors, terrain, even shadow angles. His name blinked. On the massive screen above the battlefield, Elias Cade species, human planet, Earth weapons, unknown, the announcer. A 3-eyed creature called Drewstack boomed from the loudspeakers. "Our newest competitor enters the field empty-handed. Will he survive even 1 round?" The next name appeared beside Elias's: Gerda, the Ravager species, Urgral planet. DREZZ weapons. Bone Bladessa, massive beast, stepped into the arena. Nearly 8 feet tall, with blue armor fused to his skin and razor-sharp claws longer than Elias's arm. The crowd roared with approval. "Fight!" The voice shouted, charged. Elias didn't move at first. He waited, watched. Just as the Urgral warrior slashed forward, Elias ducked low, rolled beneath the swing, and grabbed a handful of sand. He flung it upward. Gerda blinked, startled. 1 second. That's all Elias needed. He kicked the back of the warrior's leg. It bent just enough for him to fall forward. Elias slid under him, grabbing a loose strap from the Urgral's armor. Using the warrior's own momentum, he pulled hard and twisted. Gortz fell face first into the sand, roaring in anger. Elias backed away quickly, hands still empty. Not bad. For a mammal, the beast grunted, charging again. Elias moved. Like water dodging, weaving, never striking. He used the arena walls, climbing them, flipping off ledges, leading Gerda into heavy footsteps and clumsy turns. Eventually, the Urgral stumbled, exhausted and confused. The moment his knee hit the ground, Elias walked over. Calmly, he said in a clear voice, "You can yield, or we can keep dancing." The crowd gasped. Yielding in the first round was shameful, but Gerda had never faced anyone like this. No rage, no fear. It's clever steps, quick thinking, and perfect timing. "I yield," the warrior growled. The arena exploded in noise. Half the crowd cheered. The other half shouted in disbelief. A human had just won the first round without throwing a single punch in the upper decks. Elite warriors watched the replay. One of them leaned forward for Varys Athrex, the reigning champion. Her yellow eyes narrowed as she replayed Elias's moves in her mind. She had crushed champions with strength alone, but this human, he had fought without a weapon, still won. "Interesting," she muttered, back in the lower corridors. Elias stood before a panel of judges. "You disarmed." "No one." "You took no weapon?" said the robotic judge. "No," Elias replied calmly. "I didn't need one." "What kind of warrior enters a death tournament with bare hands?" asked another. Elias looked up. "The kind who doesn't believe strength. Only lives in muscles." Silence. After a long pause, his score was posted. High marks in agility, strategy, and crowd impact. The panel allowed him to proceed to round 2. Back in his quarters, Elias finally let out a breath. His hands trembled slightly. He wasn't scared of Gerda. He was scared of what was coming next. But he also knew something now. They had underestimated. Humans. They saw his soft skin, small frame, and empty hands, and thought he was weak. But humans had survived their own brutal history. Wars, extinctions, fire, famine, and fear. And through it all, they adapted. They endured. They outthought. Every threat. That was Elise's weapon. And he had just shown the galaxy its first taste. The next round came quickly. Elias Cade stood alone again in the arena. The ground had changed this time. It was made of metal panels that sparked with energy. The air was dry and full of static. Lights flickered above as the crowd watched closely. After his first victory, nobody was laughing anymore. They were curious now. A new name flashed on the screen. Shira-Zen species. Vorthan planet. Noxus 3 weapon. Electric chain whips, the arena gates opened with a loud hiss. A tall, thin figure stepped out. Shira-Zen's skin was a deep violet, and her forearms moved like snakes. She had 2 glowing whips in her hands, crackling with electric current. Her eyes glowed faintly red as she looked at Elias with a cold, emotionless face. "Your tricks won't work on me, human," she said sharply. Elias smiled politely. "Then I guess I'll have to find new ones." The crowd leaned forward in silence. Fight. Shira struck first. The electric whips flew through the air with a loud snap, lightning trailing behind them. Elias jumped to the side, rolling over a panel. The moment his foot touched it, a surge of electricity zapped up, but he was already gone. Shira moved. Fast. Faster than Gerda. Her whips sliced through air like blades, forcing Elias to duck and slide with every step. But he wasn't just dodging. He was studying the floor, looking for patterns. Every few seconds, certain panels blinked before, releasing a shock. A trap. Elias began to guide the fight toward those panels. Shira followed, not realizing she was stepping into a plan. She cracked her whip at Elias's head, barely missing. He dodged back, stepping onto a dead panel. Shira swung again, this time aiming for his legs. Elias jumped, twisting midair, then shouted, "Now." He landed on a blinking panel just as Shira stepped forward. A burst of energy exploded from the floor, hitting her boots and sending her stumbling. Elias didn't attack. He just backed away again, letting the arena do the work. The crowd started murmuring. "He's not just fast," someone said. "He's making the arena fight for him." Shira growled and started spinning both whips in wide circles. The sound was loud, electric, terrifying. Elias waited, eyes locked on her arms. When she stepped forward again, he saw her right foot land on a flashing panel. He dashed forward suddenly, not to strike, but to pull. He grabbed a piece of loose wiring from a nearby wall and threw it like a rope. It landed near her whips just as the floor lit up again. Electricity surged through Shira's leg and into her whip handles. Her body stiffened. She dropped her weapons and fell to one knee, gasping. Sparks danced around her as the crowd stood up in shock. Elias walked over slowly. He picked up one of the fallen whips and handed it back to her. "You can yield," he said quietly, "or we can keep dancing." Shira looked up at him with tired eyes. There was no hatred, just surprise. She took the whip and dropped it again. "I yield." The arena exploded with sound. Cheers, laughter, surprise. Elias Cade had done it again, defeating a 4-armed electric whip master without throwing a single punch in the champion's observation deck above. Tavari of Threx leaned forward again. She had been silent the whole match. Around her generals and warriors whispered in disbelief. "He doesn't win with strength," one muttered. "He uses everything around him," another said. But Tavari wasn't just watching his tricks. She was watching him. His posture, his calm. The way he respected every opponent, even when they fell. The way he offered a hand instead of a fist, it was unusual and strangely honorable. Back in the resting chambers, Elias finally sat down. His breathing was steady, but his muscles ached. He didn't let it show. Not here. Not in front of the cameras watching from every corner. The door to his room slid open with a beep, It wasn't a medic. It was Shira-Zen. She walked in slowly, still barefoot, her burns wrapped in glowing medical gel. "Why didn't you finish me?" she asked. Elias looked at her. "You weren't the enemy. You were just doing what warriors do. So was I." Shira nodded, then smiled slightly. "I'll be watching your next match, human. I want to see what happens when brains run out of luck." Elias smiled. "You and me both." She left without another word. Elias leaned back against the wall, looking at the ceiling. He had survived 2 rounds now. Both opponents could have killed him in seconds. But he knew that brute strength wouldn't win this tournament. He had to be smarter than everyone else. Faster, clever, unexpected. And he would need that more than ever in the next match. Because the next round wasn't against machines or beasts. It was against someone who had never lost. The next day arrived faster than Elias expected. He stood once again in the arena's long corridor, where the lights above flickered a dull orange and the thick metal doors hummed with energy. This time no one laughed. No one called him weak. Now, every eye in the galaxy was watching the strange human who fought without a weapon and still won. The crowd was louder than ever. Billions were watching the live stream across space stations and starships. People wanted to know, could the human win again? Or had his luck finally run out? This round was different. There was no surprise, no small challenge. This time he would face the champion herself. The screen above flashed a name in glowing red. Tavari of Threx species. Threxian planet, Vorthra weapon, royal armor, and power staff. Every warrior in the galaxy knew her name. She had been the undefeated champion of the Orgali's tournament for 6 years. No one had even scratched her armor. Her people, the Threxians, were known for their strength, honor, and strict warrior codes. They trained from birth and fought too, the death without fear. Tavari's image appeared above the arena tall, this fierce warrior with golden skin and long dark braids. Her armor gleamed with the symbols of her victories. Power staff in her hand crackled with red energy. Beside her name, challengers appeared once more. Elias Cade species, human planet, earth weapon, none. The gate opened. Elias walked into the arena with slow, steady steps. He wore the same simple clothes, no armor, no gear, just his sharp eyes and calm mind. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't boo either. They just watched, curious, waiting. Across the arena a second. Gate opened. Tavari stepped out, tall and silent. The weight of her armor didn't slow her. She walked like a queen, every step full of control. She stopped 10 feet from Elias and studied him carefully. "You have no armor, no blade, and yet here you stand," she said. "I have my thoughts," Elias replied calmly. Sometimes that's enough. Tavari's expression didn't change. But in her mind, she respected the answer. Strength without arrogance, quiet confidence. It was rare. The signal sounded fight, but neither of them moved. The air was still. Elias didn't want to attack first. Tavari didn't either. As a Threxian, she followed the warrior's path. Test, observe, then strike. After a long silence, she spoke again. "Why are you here, human?" "To prove something," Elias said. "To the galaxy?" "No, to myself." Tavari nodded slightly. Then she moved. Her power staff lit up, swirling red energy as she spun it once in her hand. She charged forward, not at full speed, but enough to test Ilias's reaction. He dodged fast and clean. She swung low. He flipped over her strike, rolling across the ground. But this time, she didn't hold back. Her second strike was faster. Barely escaped. Elias knew he couldn't outrun her forever, so he changed his plan. He stopped running. He stood still. Tavari hesitated. "You choose not to run?" "I want to see something," Elias said softly. She moved again, and her staff came down fast. Elias raised both hands and caught the staff. The red energy shocked his arms, but he held on. The force pushed him back, sliding across the sand, but he didn't fall. Tavari pulled the staff back, surprised. No one had blocked her blow before, not with bare hands. Elise's palms were burned. His breath came faster now. But he smiled. "You're strong," he said. "And you're reckless," she replied. She attacked again, faster this time. But Elias didn't run. He dodged left, used her weight against her, and rolled behind her. He didn't strike, but he used a loose panel on the floor to unbalance her step. Tavari turned quickly. "You're reading the terrain again." "I always do," Elias said. Strike after strike came from the champion, but Elias didn't run, moved like wind around her. He never tried to hurt her. He didn't want to win by force. He wanted her to see something different. After many exchanges, she paused. Her chest rose and fell with breath. "You won't attack," she said. "I don't need to," Elias replied. "You've already seen what I came to show." Tavari looked at him for a long moment, then she planted her staff in the ground. "I yield," she said clearly. The crowd gasped. Silence fell across the arena. Never before had Tavari yielded. Not once in her life, but she hadn't lost. She had chosen something greater. In the upper council room, the judges sat in shock. One of them finally stood. "This match is a draw?" "No," said another. "This is something new." Below, Tavari walked to Elias and stood before him. Her face was calm, serious. "In my people's tradition," she said, "to yield in honor is not defeat. It is recognition." Elias tilted his head. "Recognition of what?" "Of a worthy bond," she said. "One not of battle. Of balance." The crowd erupted again, this time in cheers and applause. Elias blinked, confused. "Wait, did you just propose to me?" Tavari smiled slightly for the first time. "Not yet," she said, "but I'm thinking about it." News of the unexpected draw between Elias Cade and Tavari spread across the galaxy like wildfire. People in every system were talking on ships, in spaceports, in marketplaces, and on broadcasts. The human had not only stood against the galaxy's greatest champion, but had done so with no weapon, and had made her yield. For the first time in the history of the Orgalis tournament, the final round had no clear winner. The judges met in a private chamber high above the arena. Their long robes shimmered under the light as they debated, argued, and reviewed footage from every angle. "This human broke no rules," said one judge. "But he also didn't fight in the traditional way," said another. "True, yet the champion herself chose to yield. That speaks louder than any rule." In the end, the decision was made. There would be one final trial. A challenge not just of strength or speed, but of will, honor, and endurance. It would test everything that made a warrior back in his chamber. Elias sat on the floor with his back against the wall. He had wrapped his hands, which were still red from catching Tavari's energy staff. He breathed slowly, trying to stay calm. Everything was moving too fast. A soft chime rang at his door. "Enter," Leah said. The door slid open. It was Tavari. She stepped inside without her armor. She wore a long, dark robe with golden threads and no weapons. Her presence still felt powerful, but something in her eyes had softened. "I heard there will be a final challenge," she said. "So did I," Elias replied. "Do you know what?" "It is," Tavari nodded. "It's a trial of unity. It's an ancient tradition, rarely used. 2 warriors must face it together." Elias blinked. "Together, yes," she said. "It's not about beating each other. It's about surviving. Something greater." Side by side, Elias stood up slowly. "Why us?" "Because we showed something new," Tavari said. "We didn't break each other. We understood each other." She stepped closer, her voice quiet now. "Us! They want to see." If that understanding is real, the next day, the arena transformed. The open battlefield was gone. Instead, the center was covered by a massive glowing dome. Inside was a simulated landscape, harsh desert, frozen mountains, deep forests, and endless obstacles. At the heart of it all, a device called the Unity Beacon. Elias and Tavari stood outside the dome together. The announcer's voice echoed. Across the sky, finalists Elias Cade and Tavari of Threx will now face the trial of unity. They must reach the beacon. Located at the center of this environment, and activate it together. They will face shifting terrain, illusions, and creatures. From their worst fears, if they separate or fail to work as one, the trial ends. The crowd watched in complete silence. Then the dome opened. Elias and Tavari stepped in. The dome closed behind them. They found themselves standing on hard stone inside a canyon. Strange blue fog filled the air, and the ground shook with every step. "Stay close," Tavari said. Elias nodded. "I don't plan on going anywhere." As they moved forward, the terrain shifted. One moment they walked on stone, and the next they were sinking into soft sand. From the mist, shapes appeared, giant beasts with red eyes, shadows with claws, echoes of voices from their past. The simulation was reading their minds, creating fears, memories, and doubts. Elias saw the faces of his fallen teammates from Earth's wars. He heard their cries, felt the guilt in his chest. Tavari saw her old mentor fall in battle again and again. She heard her people calling her unworthy for yielding. They both slowed down. "We have to keep moving," Elias said, his voice shaking. "I know," Tavari answered, gripping his arm. "We fight this together." When one fell, the other pulled them up. When Elias stumbled, Tavari lifted him. When Tavari was surrounded by illusions, Elias held her hand and reminded her, "It's not real." Time had no meaning in the dome. They moved across frozen cliffs, through caves, a fire, across bridges that vanished beneath their feet. The beacon's light was far ahead, glowing gold, but the final challenge waited. At the base of the beacon stood a massive creature made of living darkness. Its shape changed constantly, a beast with too many arms, a shadow with no face. In hundreds of voices at once, "You are not united," it hissed. "You are different. You cannot win together." Elias looked at Tavari. "He's wrong." She met his gaze. "Then let's show him." He didn't charge. They walked forward side by side. The shadow monster attacked with a roar that shook the air. Tavari blocked a massive strike. With her bare arms, Elias found a weak spot in the rocks above and triggered a collapse. The creature screamed. It reformed and came again. Elias and Tavari moved as one, dodging, as shielding, striking when needed. Not with power, with trust, timing, respect. When the creature finally broke apart into dust, the path to the beacon was clear. Together, they stepped forward. Together, placed their hands on the beacon. Light exploded upward. Outside the dome, the crowd stood as one. Not a single person sat when the dome opened. And Elias and Tavari walked out, hands still touching every screen across the galaxy, flashed the same. Words. Trial complete, unity achieved. CO champions declared, and at that moment, something in the galaxy changed, not because someone won, but because two people from different worlds proved they didn't have to fight each other to earn respect. The trial of unity was over. Galaxy had witnessed something no one expected. To warriors so different, so unlikely had walked through the most difficult challenge together. And they had not only survived it, they had succeeded without anger, without betrayal, and without violence. Elias Cade, the unarmed human, and Tavari Threx, the undefeated champion, were now declared co-champions of the Orgalis tournament. No one knew what to call them, not rivals, not enemies, not even simple allies. They were something more. The sun set over Orgalis Prime, casting golden light across the victory balcony where the champion stood.
Ice.
The air was warm, filled with distant music from the celebration below. Fireworks lit up. The sky spirals of green, blue, and silver dancing among the stars. Elias stood quietly, holding a cup of chilled nectar, staring at the crowd from above. He could hear laughter and cheer, music and voices from dozens of species, all celebrating the unexpected outcome of the galaxy's deadliest competition. Behind him, his footsteps approached. Tavari joined him, dressed in royal Threxian cloth. Without her armor, the golden thread glowed gently in the light. Her long braids were tied back, and though her face was calm as always, there was something different in her eyes. "You seem quiet," she said. "I've never had this many people cheering for me before." Elias replied with a smile. Back on Earth, I was just a rescue medic. I saved lives. I never thought I'd be famous. You're more than famous now, Tavari said. You've changed the meaning of this tournament, perhaps even more. Elias looked at her. You helped me do that. They stood silently for a moment, watching the lights of the celebration. Below, ships hovered in the sky, displaying holograms of their battle, their teamwork, and the moment they touched the Unity beacon. Can I ask you something? Elias said. You may. That moment, when you yielded to me. Why did you do it? You could have beaten me. Tavari looked away, thinking, you were the first warrior I met who didn't want to win with pain. You were not trying to prove you were stronger. You wanted to show something better. I saw that. Elias nodded slowly. And now, Tavari turned back to him. I have a choice to make. Elias raised an eyebrow. About what? She stepped closer. Among my people, when a Threxian yields to someone in honorable combat, they must decide if the one they yielded to is worthy of something more. Elias blinked. Something more? Bond? A future? A partner? His heart skipped. You? Mean marriage? Tavari gave a small nod. Yes. Elias stared at her, speechless. I am not asking now, she said, calm but serious. But I want you to understand. This was not a simple match for me. It was something rare. Something powerful. He didn't speak right away. The sound of a new song rose in the distance. Finally, Elias said, You're the strongest person I've ever met. But not because of your staff or your armor, because you saw me, respected me. No one ever did that before in a fight. Tilted her head. Is that a yes? Elias smiled. It's a let's find out. News spread across the stars in less than a day. Not only had the human survived the tournament, not only had he been declared coach champion, but now the legendary Tavari had made a bonding offer to him. Some praised it, others questioned it, but most were simply amazed. Across hundreds of worlds, people discussed the union of two warriors from opposite sides of the galaxy. Some said it was strange, others said it was beautiful. For Tavari's people, it was a proud moment. Their champion had not fallen. She had evolved seen strength in something other than combat. She had chosen a path of honor and unity. 4. Humans back on Earth was a celebration unlike any other. The news played across every screen. Human mimetic becomes galactic co-champion and may soon become royal mate to alien champion. Elise's friends and family sent thousands of messages. His old commander even laughed on live broadcasts and said, That boy went to save lives in space and came back a legend, and possibly a husband. In the days that followed, Elias and Tavari were given honorary titles. They toured cultural halls, visited healing centers, and spoke to young warriors from many species about teamwork, honor, and understanding. Elias learned more about Threxian customs. He practiced with wooden staffs beside Tavari not to fight, but to learn balance, rhythm, and trust. They talked often, shared stories about childhood, loss, training, and dreams. Slowly, they began to understand each other, not just as warriors, but as people. One evening, as they sat under a crystal tree glowing with soft blue light, Elias turned to her. I used to think strength was about who could survive the most. Pain, he said, but you taught me something new. Tavari looked at him. What did I teach you? That strength can also be about choosing peace, about knowing when not to fight, about letting someone in. She placed her hand gently over his. And what did you teach me? She asked. Elias smiled. That sometimes the best weapon is an open hand. They sat there together, silent and warm under the alien stars. The great halls of Threx Prime were filled with golden light. High above the twin moons, ships floated peacefully in orbit. Flags from hundreds of different planets waved in the warm wind. Beings of every shape, size, and species gathered from across the galaxy, dressed in their finest ceremonial clothing. It wasn't just a celebration, it was a wedding. A warrior's wedding. A human and a Threxian. Elias. Cade stood in front of a tall mirror in his guest chamber, adjusting the dark robe, given to him by Threxian elders. It had no armor, no weapons. But it carried the symbol of the trial of unity sewn over the heart, two hands touching in a circle of stars. He took a deep breath. He had faced giant monsters, escaped deadly traps, outwitted galaxy champions, but nothing felt as terrifying or exciting as this moment. The door opened behind him. It was General Doran, one of Tavari's closest commanders. A tall Threxian male. His silver armor was polished and ceremonial today. "She is ready," Doran said. Elias turned. "And you approve?" Doran gave a short nod. "At first, no. I thought you were just lucky. But now, I see you are something. Rare someone who fights without needing to destroy. Someone who understands honor beyond combat." Elias smiled. "Thank you." "Don't make her regret it," Doran said seriously. "I won't," Elias replied. The wedding took place on the sky platform, high above the Threxian capital. It was built from crystal stone, floating in the air with energy pillars. From there, the stars could be seen in every direction. Tavari stood at the center, dressed in deep violet robes lined with gold. Her braids were tied with small pieces of her shattered armor, symbols of strength given away for peace. When Elias stepped forward to meet her, the crowd fell silent. A soft wind moved between them as they faced each other. No priest, no long speech, only tradition. Tavari spoke first. "I faced many warriors. I defeated them with strength. But I yielded to you not because I was weak, but because I saw truth in your hands, in your heart. You gave me peace without asking for it. I offer the same in return." Then Elias replied, "I came here with empty hands, no blade, no shield, but you saw something in me I didn't even see in myself. You didn't laugh, you didn't walk away, you chose to stand with me. I choose to stand with you every day. Forward." They each placed their hand on the union stone, smooth black rock that lit up with silver light when touched by two bonded souls. The platform lit up. The crowd stood and cheered. A signal spread across galaxies. Bond, complete human and Threxian, united by trial and honor. The days that followed were full of celebration and peace, but something more important was happening behind the scenes. Tavari and Elias had started something the galaxy hadn't seen before, a movement of cooperation. For centuries, many species saw strength only through force. Now, people were questioning that idea. They had watched a human with no weapon earn victory after victory, not by destroying enemies, but by outsmarting them and showing mercy. Galactic leaders met on neutral planets. Talks began for new tournaments, ones that included trials of wisdom, diplomacy, and rescue missions, not just battle. A new part of the Orgali's tournament was planned, the Path of Balance, inspired by Elias and Tavari. Young warriors began training differently. They studied terrain, psychology, unity. Even Earth, once seen as weak and new, was now respected. Not because of weapons, but because of one man who had walked into the arena with nothing but his mind, and walked out with the heart of a champion. Months passed. Elias sat in a quiet garden on Threx Prime, writing in a small journal. He looked out at the night sky, full of stars. Somewhere out there, other planets were watching his story. Maybe new fighters were preparing for their own trials. Tavari joined him, placing a warm drink beside him. She sat close, her arm resting lightly against his. "Another entry?" she asked. "Just writing about today," Elias said. "Student asked me why I didn't use a weapon." I told her, "Because sometimes the sharpest blade is your next decision." Tavari nodded. With approval. "She'll remember that." Elias looked at her. "Did you ever imagine your story would end like this?" "No," she said honestly. "Thought I would fight until the end of my days. Thought honor came only from victory. But you showed me that honor can also come from peace." Elias leaned back, smiling. "We didn't just win a tournament. We started something bigger." Tavari turned her gaze to the stars. "I believe others will follow." 1 year later, a statue was placed at the center of the arena on Orgali's Prime. It showed two figures standing side by side, a human with open hands and a Threxian with a lowered staff. Beneath it, a simple plaque read, "Where weapons failed, unity won." Let all who enter this place remember, true strength is not just in the body, but in the bond. And across the stars, people remembered. They told the story of a man who came with no armor, no blade, and no fame, and left with a galaxy's respect, a warrior's heart, and a bond stronger than steel.